The recent horrifying news from Japan that has the whole country shocked and confused is what happened to popular streamer Ai Mogami, and definitely keep scrolling away from this if you don't feel like a very heavy topic. If you're still here, 4 days ago on March 11th, 22-year-old influencer Ai Mogami was attacked on live stream in broad daylight by this man. Suspect 42-year-old Kenichi Takano, while thousands of viewers watched, resulting in the loss of her life, where he was promptly arrested. He quickly confessed, stating his motive being a dark story that took place over the past 4 years where he had loaned Ai over $16,800, which she was not paying him back. Text messages and a lawsuit soon confirmed this, showing that he had been a fan of hers and over some time she had begun to ask to borrow money. For various reasons, ranging from her forgetting her wallet to work to dramatic family issues, he would sometimes loan her up to $1,000 a month, to the point where he was himself taking out loans. Eventually, he had virtually no more money, his debt collectors were calling for him, and when he asked for it back, she ended up blocking him, so he took her to court and ended up successfully suing her for the money. For whatever reason, he still did not get the money until 4 days ago he found her by recognizing the background of where she was streaming live in Tokyo along the Yamanote-sen line. He tracked her down and the aforementioned attack happened in front of thousands of viewers, and violence is much more rare in Japan on the news than it is in the States. So not only was that shocking to the nation, but Ai also shares the name of a popular voice actress. So there was mass confusion over her well-being to the point where she had to release a statement saying that she was in fact okay. And there is massive chaos on the Japanese internet revolving around the rhetoric of lending money, live streaming, and hostess club activity. Anyway, stay safe out there. This has been one of the more tragic things that has been a widespread conversation topic in Japan for a while. So if you ever wanted to move to Japan illegally, you had a really bad option to do so until just a couple days ago, because 2 men from China in their 30s were just arrested for producing thousands of fake Japanese residency cards. These men were already in trouble with Tokyo police for overstaying their own visas, so if they couldn't forge residency for themselves, it's pretty obvious that they were very much just scamming all of their clients online, who they sold their counterfeit documents to for $69 each, by the way, so very cheap. And by the way, it's estimated they made 7,500 of these. So not only do Japanese police now have the faces of all the people involved who will now likely never be issued a legitimate visa, because there's now evidence that they tried to counterfeit their way into the country, but in my experience, these would be essentially completely useless in any element of moving to Japan. Getting a job, getting an apartment, absolutely passing through immigration at the airport, my visa and residency status has always been checked against the government database, making sure I'm properly registered through the embassy. And unless these people had government employees on their payroll, which I doubt they did for $69 residency forgeries, these would be flagged as fake every step of the way. Even the average Tokyo cop that stopped me on the streets has scanned my card with something that I assume checks its validity. So I don't know who they'd even show these to. Let me know if I'm missing something that would make these of any use at all. But it is lucrative for the forgers because the same thing happened in 2022 where the 6 people involved were estimated to have made about 140 million yen, which is $965,000. But don't get involved in this is the moral of the story. It's so much easier just to apply for a real job in Japan to get a visa. So more details on the tragic attack in Japan on influencer Ai Mogami, specifically the online speculation and chaos that is surging through the country. And again, please quickly scroll on if you don't feel like a extremely heavy topic. These details are rough, so I covered how 22-year-old Ai was attacked on live stream 5 days ago by 42-year-old Kenji Takano, resulting in her losing her life because she owed him over $16,000. What I did not cover is first how twisted and suspicious her methods of getting the money from him were, and the dark speculations that can be drawn from this. Basically, when Takano ran out of money to give her and cannot even get another loan himself due to his annual income, she gave him detailed instructions on how he could fraudulently manipulate loopholes in loan company policies to get larger loans beyond his income bracket, so that he could keep loaning her money. And the speculation comes from that there are no reports of her having this level of financial literacy. So many wonder if there could be a third party that systematically coached her in these legal loopholes to get money from people. Or at the very least, if she had done this before. And there have unfortunately been precedents of hosts being coached in ways to manipulate large sums of money from people that they deem to be susceptibly lonely. Second, I didn't cover the shocking amount of online people stating that this was his natural reaction to being pushed into a corner financially and emotionally. Which makes me want to share the opposing narrative, and this gets really bleak, which is there's no mistake that this 42-year-old man tracked her down with 2 knives in his backpack, stabbed her over 30 times, and continued to kick her while she was on the ground saying, "Are you gone yet?" All which was recorded on her live stream. So many have pointed out that this shows a tremendous capacity for great violence, and a shocking disregard for human life, and a shocking lack of empathy. And many others have been driven into a corner like this and taken advantage financially to the point where local Shinjuku government has offered free legal resources for victims of such instances in recent years, usually victims of illegally manipulative hosts in the district, yet this guy's behavior shows much deeper issues, obviously. And lastly, he won his lawsuit against her in December of 2023, legally forcing her to pay back the money she owes him with interest, which raises the question, why weren't the courts doing anything about this? Why couldn't they find her? She had the money. This could have been maybe prevented by them, even if this guy was extremely unstable. Right now, Japan is facing its biggest crisis possibly ever, something that you may have heard about but you can now actually see. The population is declining. For the 15th year in a row now, not enough people have been having babies. Last year alone, the population dropped by 500,000 people, resulting in an aging population and multiple societal issues. For example, there are not enough people of hireable age to meet the demands of many industries such as taxi drivers, and most dire of all, many smaller rural towns are becoming devoid of younger generations. Even smaller towns closer to Tokyo are suffering, like Okutama, which has a reported 6 students in their 3rd grade class. Japan's government is doing some wild things to combat this, such as creating their own dating app that focuses on getting financially stable couples together for the purpose of marriage. And smaller towns are even giving away free houses to younger couples with kids to maintain their population. So why is this happening? More cynical people will speculate it's because younger generations are not dating enough, which after living in Japan for years, I find this hard to believe. Unless those who aren't dating are simply people I don't see or meet, which is possible, but I tend to side with those who believe the reason is more practical. A financial issue. It has simply become too expensive to raise kids on the average couple's salary in the past decade. Specifically, the cost of rent raises exponentially when you need space for children in the cities. That is not necessarily an issue specific to Japan. Many reports have shown that younger couples all over the world are less likely to have kids. I hope that, at least to solve the problem of a lack of workers, they make it easier for me to get my working visa. What do you think the issue is? Right now, Japan is facing its biggest crisis possibly ever, something that you may have heard about but you can now actually see. The population is declining. For the 15th year in a row now, not enough people have been having babies. Last year alone, the population dropped by 500,000 people, resulting in an aging population and multiple societal issues. For example, there are not enough people of hireable age to meet the demands of many industries such as taxi drivers, and most dire of all, many smaller rural towns are becoming devoid of younger generations. Even smaller towns closer to Tokyo are suffering, like Okutama, which has a reported 6 students in their 3rd grade class. Japan's government is doing some wild things to combat this, such as creating their own dating app that focuses on getting financially stable couples together for the purpose of marriage. And smaller towns are even giving away free houses to younger couples with kids to maintain their population. So why is this happening? More cynical people will speculate it's because younger generations are not dating enough, which after living in Japan for years, I find this hard to believe. Unless those who aren't dating are simply people I don't see or meet, which is possible, but I tend to side with those who believe the reason is more practical. A financial issue. It has simply become too expensive to raise kids on the average couple's salary in the past decade. Specifically, the cost of rent raises exponentially when you need space for children in the cities. That is not necessarily an issue specific to Japan. Many reports have shown that younger couples all over the world are less likely to have kids. I hope that, at least to solve the problem of a lack of workers, they make it easier for me to get my working visa. What do you think the issue is? Another tourist was just detained by police in Japan, this time caught on a viral video where many are calling him the most annoying one of all the travelers to make the news recently. And unfortunately also causing many to call for further restrictions on tourists in the country, which I didn't think this was as big of an issue until just recently. What basically happened is this man walked into a hotel where he was not a guest, got into an argument with the workers there, and when it was decided that he could not stay, he just sat in the lobby, harassed the employees, and would not leave until the police were called and asked him to leave. Reportedly just ignoring the police, pretending to meditate, and repeatedly saying, "You don't have my consent to touch my luggage." This has gotten more out of hand than I thought, because just a couple days ago, the actual Prime Minister of Japan was talking about how bad behavior by tourists has become a national issue, and 2 years ago, similar instances of hotel staff being harassed by guests led to Japan's health ministry revising the hotel business laws, making it easier for them to reject travelers. Some comments say they feel police bother tourists in Japan too easily. Other comments say that travelers only do this in Japan because they feel they can get away with it without consequence. Most just say this guy's entitled and has too much free time. I hope this doesn't persist. What do you think? This morning, another tourist was arrested in Japan, this time for something pretty wild, which continues the unfortunate trend of a small but loud minority of travelers causing trouble in the country. What happened was, at 2:30 a.m. this morning of March 16th, a man was arrested for breaking into the Imperial Palace, home of the Emperor and Empress and Princess Aiko. A pretty wild thing to have on your record. He was only described as being a very large foreign man, which is an unfortunate description for him, but I don't really care too much about who he is. The point is, a lot of us may have seen stories like this popping up with more frequency recently, like this American man I covered last fall, who was arrested for carving his name into a shrine in Tokyo, or a tourist who was arrested for striking a convenience store clerk for having to pay 3 yen for a bag. Anyway, my take from what I've seen after working in Japan for a lot of the past several years, which I believe reflects the take of a lot of people, is this is very clearly just like less than 1% of travelers who act so poorly, but the fact that the number of tourists that enter Japan increased by 47% last year also means that that small amount of awful people also increased by 47%. That has been the general understanding and vibe of what I've seen in the country, so contrary to some posts you may see, I still believe you will feel a very welcoming atmosphere if you do travel to Japan. If that can ease anyone's anxiety about a trip, and it's a proven fact that all of you, my followers, are proven to be the coolest travelers, so keep it up.